There are actually 4 different styles of intuition that the human psyche can metabolize and utilize when they're solving their problems. I'm going to go through all 4 styles. Which one do you think you most prefer and use on a daily basis? I'm Sukboy. You're awesome. Let's talk about it. Now, for some of you, you're going to find this really confusing because yes, indeed, the human psyche uses all 4 of these types of intuition, just so you know. But at scale, we tend to prefer one style over the others. We prioritize one way of thinking or utilizing intuition over the remaining 3, just saying. Now, the first style of intuition I'm going to label alpha intuition, and it's when we have something called extroverted intuition blocking with introverted thinking. So it's intuitive logic. Now, this style of intuition is about grand theories and metabolizing theoretical conceptual data. And it's applying definitions and analysis to theories, thought experiments. When we think about someone like Albert Einstein, for example, we're not thinking about his relationships, are we? We're thinking about his theoretical ideas about the universe, his relationship to how the universe works. And so therefore, it's not about his feelings or his emotions. It's very much about being accurate and trying to synthesize the ultimate meaning of the universe and being very curious about that. His relationship to intuitive logic or intuitive thinking was kind of systemized in an overall grand theory. So if you find yourself intuiting about the future or the past and what that meant, but you're not actually thinking about other people, you're thinking about the way the universe works, you might prefer alpha intuitive logic as a cognitive preference, just saying. Now, the next style of intuition I'm going to cover is called delta intuition. Now, this version of intuition is much more intuitive feelings rather than intuitive logic. This is again using extroverted intuition, but this time we're blocking it with introverted feelings. Now, this one's much more about seeing the potential of a relationship, the potential of a person. Sometimes it manifests in giving the benefit of the doubt to something that on face value might be quite risque or there's some red flags, but there's something telling you that no, hold court, maybe there's something to this. Let's see how this plays out. More than anything, it speaks to our ability to intuit our personal potential and the potential of others we know and associate with. So if you find you're the type of person that can see your potential or see the potential in others, you might be utilizing delta intuition. Now, it doesn't always have to be about you or another person. It can still be conceptual, but it's extremely creative. The potential of seeing something through, being very curious and exploring all the different ideas. A good case study for this would be someone like Walt Disney. Now, Walt Disney and Disney in general was very imaginative, and it's all about the hero's journey and the relationship all the characters have. So it's a little less logical and a bit more cultural in that sense, and the intuiting how relationships and people evolve over time. What's the potential of the relationship? What's the potential or narrative arc of the character? For example, think about Pinocchio at the start of the movie and the end of the movie. What potential was fulfilled? Same goes for Simba and the Lion King, yada, yada, yada. It repeats over and over and over again, the same kind of pattern of intuition. Now, style 3, I'm actually going to call gamma intuition. And in this cognitive process, we're actually introverting the intuition and we're extroverting the logic. So it's still intuitive logic, but the coins have been flipped. The attitudes have been flipped in terms of introversion and extroversion. Gamma intuition. Now, this version of intuition or intuitive logic is a lot more strategical. It has a particular deterministic trajectory forward. It's not curious about theoretical stuff anymore. It's trying to narrow it down and actually apply its intuition to one path forward into the future or derive meaning, one particular meaning from the past. Less theory, more application. But it's still happening internally in the mind. You're not actually affecting external tangible reality. It's still a concept of the mind. Intuition. It's skeptical and goal-orientated, and it's fiercely independent. It separates itself and its own intuition from what others are doing. In that sense, it can be competitive, but it's not competitive because it wants to win necessarily. It's competitive because it wants to be original or unique. A good case study for someone that uses this version of intuition is someone like Nikola Tesla, for example. Now, what makes Nikola Tesla's intuitive logic different to Albert Einstein's? Well, Nikola Tesla actually applied his logic to creating objects. He actually created a lot of inventions. So yeah, still deeply philosophical and still using some of that extroverted intuition, but he's actually trying to apply this knowledge, apply this logic in a more utilitarian manner. Okay, the final type of intuition I'm going to describe is called beta intuition. Now again, this is using introverted intuition, but this time we're using extroverted emotions or extroverted feelings, blocking these processes together, and we're developing or charting the course forward. We're still being strategic, kind of, but we're trying to foresee the future, and we're not exploring or being curious about all the possibilities now. We're setting our compass on one particular direction. But because we're using feelings, not logic now, it becomes again about relationship to people. But rather than just one person or one relationship or your potential, it's looking at the overall potential for everyone, the collective. Culture, for example, trends in culture, forecasting the zeitgeist of a society and the ideological material that's associated with any given moment in history. Now, this is your quintessential trend setter, someone that can bring in new cultural values by inspiring others to transform old cultural lag into something a bit more progressive when it comes to how culture organizes itself and how we relate to one another on a collective level. Now, a case study for this kind of goes far and wide. We can think of people like Gandhi or Hitler. Now, I know that seems like an absurd comparison, but these people were deeply ideological and they shaped the zeitgeist of culture or trends moving forward. Now, it has an iconic flavor to it, and perhaps the I Have a Dream of Martin Luther King really encapsulates the civil rights movement and transforming one period of time, one cultural zeitgeist, into another, guiding it into another. Now, again, the human psyche metabolizes and utilizes all four styles of intuition in some way, shape, or form. But some people in the population prefer to use one over the other three. They might really, really like one and kind of neglect the others. And that tends to happen in each individual on a spectrum very differently. Drop some knowledge. What styles of intuition do you think you prefer to utilize? Hope that helps. Okay, bye.